Lyndon and Angela are our very good friends from Maharangi Vineyard Church, which is way up the north, just by Warkworth. And they are also, as well as being great friends, Lyndon is the chairman of our Vineyard Churches of New Zealand board, so he's my boss. So this could be like an intervention here, you know, if he decided to. I think they've come just to check out and see if there's any heresy here or anything like that. No, but all jokes aside, they're wonderful, wonderful friends.
Who's joking? What do you mean?
They're great friends and they've got a wonderful story to tell. And so I've invited them. They were going to be down here anyway. So I invited them to come along and so that we could actually hear some of the wonderful things that have been happening. Now, tell us, your church actually is the original Vineyard Church in New Zealand. Tell us about that.
We should be pros by this. We just did it 2 minutes ago, yeah.
Yeah, we are. So Maharangi Vineyard was started by Lloyd and Vicky Rankin many years ago, I don't actually know, it's 35 or 37, something like that. And so we have met for 35-ish years in the Snells Beach Community Centre. And 18 months ago, we left that building, which was a very cool story. Do you want me to tell the story?
Tell us the story. How did you end up from going from a community centre that you're in for 35 years to where you are now?
Well, wonderful. We were at a vineyard pastors retreat, and actually Dave had a bit of a word or a picture, or kind of given us a bit of inspiration that as vineyard churches around the country, that we could lean into and ask for our own homes, our own buildings, you know, because most of the churches would have been like us, where we are in a community centre. You know, we loved that community centre. It was a great place to meet. But, you know, like we always had the time pressure of like, wrap it up because pickleball's waiting. You know, they need to get into the gym. You know, it's theirs at 12 o'clock. So we got to keep moving, and then whatever else it was. And so it was just at this senior pastors retreat was just this invitation to pray, and we both felt kind of stirred to respond to it. And to be honest, it's like often when you respond to what it is the Holy Spirit might be saying or doing, there's not a lot else other than maybe a very small kind of inkling that this might be going on. Like, and the only thing that was smaller than that inkling was our bank account as a church. And so it seemed ridiculous to be kind of going forward, even at this retreat, to say, hey, man, wouldn't it be great if we could have our own home?
So then we came home from that retreat, and we very boldly, Lyndon and I, he pulls me out when he wants like the big guns. That's what he calls it.
You guys, this is the big guns.
Because I normally won't do it. So he's like, I feel like we need to invite the church into this step and see what happens. And in saying that, the faith was so tiny because we wrote that sermon together, and then he's like, let's put that as the very last point because I might not say it.
I'll probably chicken out, and I'll do 3 points, plus the fourth one will be about having our own home. The rest were all kind of visionary stuff, and but this one I just thought, well, I'll do 3 because then no one will really notice that there was anything else meant to be, you know, because everyone knows you've got to have a good 3-point sermon. So I thought I'll do that as the fourth point because I'll probably just chicken out and not say it. But we did say it.
So we said it, and then this was in 2021, if you remember back to those beautiful years. And then on the Monday, after that Sunday, we in Auckland went into a lockdown that lasted, which felt like eternity. But we didn't meet together then as a church for over 12 months. So we had kind of put this vision out there, and we both felt very stupid, didn't we? We're like, we completely miss God because we just look like
The good
fools.
thing is we thought, oh, well, with COVID, no one will remember what we said anyway. You know, like it was sort of, we went through and deleted all the recordings of it and just wiped it from our social media history. Not quite, but we thought about it.
So we did that, and then, we were in lockdown. But what we didn't realise was that we had stirred something in the hearts of a couple that was sitting in church that day. And we were a bit slow on the uptake because they said a few things to us at different times. What are you thinking? What would the ideal building look like? And we're like, oh, it's irrelevant. We've got no money. Like, it's what I felt like saying to them. They never straight out said, we want to get involved. We want to do this. But they pushed a lot. They nudged us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we were going for a walk on the beach one day, and they were like, "Hey, so what are you looking at?" And at one point we were looking at, there was actually a vineyard, an actual vineyard, grapes and all, not like this, but a vineyard that had gone out of business, that had a huge big building and everything. And we said, well, let's go look at that. And it was only on sale for $12 million. So what are you going to do? Like, why not? It's a bargain.
We probably had $1,200.
Yeah.
But we're like,
It's just a few zeros. What's the difference? So we went and had a look, and we all kind of walked around, and it was like, wow, that would be amazing, but that feels like maybe a few other steps along the way. Actually, to be honest, which is lovely, the Catholic Church in Warkworth has bought that building, and they're going to use it eventually turn it into a school, and they use it to worship in as well. So it was very exciting to actually hear that eventually. But we went away from that, one, feeling still quite silly. Like, I felt like apologizing to the agent who had driven up, just like, sorry, like this is such a waste of your time. But it did, again, stirred within us. And then we heard that through a series of events that the Presbyterian Church in our town, they were building a new building, and that they had a developer that was very interested in their current site and was kind of going through due diligence. And that had just fallen over the day after we had looked at that property. And then we were told that, well, as far as their way, they are only going to negotiate with one party at a time. So if you're interested, tomorrow you should go have a look at this building. And so we were kind of like, oh yeah, I guess, we've wasted the time of one agent. What's two? Like it's no big deal. We'll go have a look.
so yeah, we went and looked. I had never liked the church. Like, I was like, it is so ugly. I don't want to move there. We'd almost been blinded to it because it had been for sale, and we just never pursued it. Anyway, we went on this Monday morning, and it had to be God, because it was almost like we saw it in a completely different way. Like, we started to dream and imagine what could be in this space. So together with that couple, they put an offer in that was accepted, and there were a lot of things that had to happen for that to go unconditional. And I remember that was a really nerve-wracking time, because it was over a month that we're like, oh, is this going to be? And then every domino fell into place, or maybe it was the Holy Spirit and God actually, but it went unconditional, and we got the building. And then a year later...
Yeah, you guys are about as enthusiastic as Maharangi Vineyard. I don't know. I think we need to sort of be a little bit better at what we celebrate. Just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Well done.
Let's just explain. One couple gave $2.5 million, and they bought outright this church.
Yeah, so they wrote the check, paid for it, and then a year later gave it all to Maharangi Vineyard. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So our threshold for celebration is giving an entire property away. Okay, just so we know. Yeah. Anything other than that, whatever. Yeah.
So what was the response of the congregation when you, after 35 years, moved from doing a 2-hour service a week to getting into your own building? What was the response?
Yeah, it was very exciting. I mean, we were all very, obviously that couple had kind of been on a journey, but for the church itself, we kind of just jumped. We jumped a lot of steps really, really quickly. That's the church there. It's beautiful. We sit on the top of the hill in Warkworth, so our bell tower, our spire, can be seen just about from all of Warkworth town. Really, really lovely. The easiest way to
find it. If you're driving there, you look for the spire.
That's it.
And you just follow it.
So we are 160. The original building was built 160 years ago. So it's been so amazing amazing. So what it's done for us as a church is, one, it's kind of given us eyes to see the legacy of we are custodians, we are just people taking care of this place, which from the very beginning of 160 years ago was built to be a place where people encounter Jesus, and we get the privilege of stewarding that for this next season, which has been very, very exciting. We've had to grow up a lot as a church because, up until now, we've been in a community center where if something needed fixing, we phoned the council. If we ran out of toilet paper, we complained and wrote a nasty letter and got the council to put more toilet paper in. Whatever it was. And now we've got to buy toilet paper. Do you know how expensive toilet paper is? It's terrible.
Yeah, it's been a huge change for the church. Like, I don't think we didn't realize how big the shift was going to be. And even as leaders, we didn't fully grasp it. And it's entirely different when you are physically present somewhere every day of the week. And that has been a huge shift, but people have really risen to the occasion. I remember the day we shared it with the church, because we were not allowed to talk about the process that had been asked, the Prezzies had asked that we not. So we actually just announced it to the church, which was a really big step because we hadn't taken them. They knew we were wanting to go that way, but they hadn't been a part of the journey. But the response was overwhelmingly positive. But it has been a journey of two people's generosity. Does not mean that the other 200 people get to sit on their hands and not become a part of the story. So that's been big.
You guys have sort of done the opposite of what most churches do, because most churches, you grow people's hearts to the place that people all help to go into a place, whereas what you've done is somebody's just given you this thing and now you've got to grow people's hearts. But it's expensive to run the place, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I'm the detailed one, and it's almost spun me out a little bit because it's like, wow, we have a lot of costs now that we didn't have before.
Well, and to be honest, it actually proves the point that it's not about the money, it's not about the building, it's not about the project, it's about God needing and wanting to build in us hearts that are generous. Like, so, because we've already got the building. If it was all about the building, well, then that work's done. It's all there. But that's not where it is. The work is in that all of us have to have our hearts expanded to embrace what it is to live generous lives. And so we've just done it, as Dave said, back to front.
Yeah, which I don't know which way is better, but it's definitely been a process. Last Sunday we shared with the church that, we have never talked about money as a church, which that's been a really big shift that we've had to make, and it's really hard as leaders to talk about money. But we've had to go there, and we shared last Sunday, and we've actually only been met with so much positive response, which has been really encouraging for us.
So you've just done a 5-week series on giving and generosity. Why did you never do it before? Over 35 years.
Because I need people to like me, and I want them to know that really I'm as good as humanity gets, and no. Wouldn't that be sad, actually? No, to be totally honest, many a serious word is said in jest. It really was for me the fear of what people would think. Like that you don't want to be like, and we can all imagine now, that person who uses those messages to control, to manipulate, to coerce people into doing what they really don't want to do. And so I had kind of, in so not wanting to be that, I had swung so far, like we often do, so far the other way, that I was just actually genuinely, in God's kindness, reminded that I'm actually doing as much damage and disservice to God's people by not speaking about it, by not just actually teaching what Jesus said about money and possessions and our hearts, that as if I was doing the control and coercion and horribleness. And so became a work in me to say, man, I don't want to do that. I want to be a good steward of the people that I'm leading. And part of that is to put my big boy pants on and talk about the things that Jesus talked about.
So what, what do you think the effect was on your church, the fact that for 35 years, but before you, it wasn't spoken about in the previous people either. So what do you think the effect on the church was that nobody ever spoke about money or giving?
Yeah, I think there was actually, we were given a scripture recently, and it was a parable that Jesus told about a fig tree that wasn't producing fruit. And it was a really wonderful, wonderful story that meant something very significant to me personally. But then just following that in Luke 13 is a story of Jesus healing a woman who had been bent over, and he healed her on the Sabbath in the synagogue. And the story goes that she had been, I think the scripture uses the term like she had a spirit of weakness and had been bent over. And to be honest, that is how we have described Maharangi Vineyard over the years, as we were a church that just felt crippled by the lack of giving and generosity. It was crippling. It meant that we couldn't do and be the church that we knew God wanted us to be. I was just hoping someone else would sort it out.
So how scary was it to actually talk about it for the first time?
I shouldn't laugh.
I did it. That's why she's laughing. Yeah.
I got the privilege of seeing Lyndon that morning, and it's actually it's really hard to watch someone you love look physically sick. And I just knew that he was sweating it out. You know, that last worship song before you've got to... And you actually said he went to write the word tithe in his notes, and he said it was the hardest thing he had to write. Yeah. Because it's not that, I think Lyndon said it every week, it's not that we weren't generous and we weren't giving. That wasn't what it was about. We had just never shared what we've always done with the people.
Yeah, so in a way, it was actually kind of easy because I said every week, like Kiwis love that or want to know, I think deep down, that we're people who practice what we preach. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just like who we are here now on this is who we are out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. That's a really deep thing that we value in culture. And so I guess for me, I felt like very early on when I knew this is where we were going was that sense of almost flipping that, not being a person who practices what they preach, but I knew I was going to be a person who was going to preach what we had already practiced. So Angela and I, in our own finances for decades, have tithed. We've given the first 10% of what we've earned, the possessions and the money and that we've had, we've given it to the church. We've done that before we've led Maharangi Vineyard. We've done it all the way while we lead Maharangi Vineyard, and I am deeply confident that we'll do that when we stop leading a church, because it's just who we are and what we know God has invited us into. Actually, He's commanded us into. It's too important to be an invitation. So in a way, that was kind of easy because I knew I wasn't going to be saying to anyone else what we hadn't already been doing and seen. Like how many people here know that when you've given your life to living a generous life, one of the benefits is you get these stories of incredible provision. Like, look, hands up if you've had those. Like and Jesus wants that for everyone in the room. That's the whole point of it. Is there's something when you give, and like we've said it, it's not that you give because you think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with all the money I have this week? Do you know? Like that's it. Like it's not that way. We've given when we feel like, yeah, it feels, that's not ours, it's God's. But we've also given when it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know how this is going to work out by the end of the week. And the beautiful thing is, it does. He's so faithful.
And you've had some exciting stories from your church, haven't you, in the last 5 weeks, as you've talked about it. People have sort of come to revelations of things, haven't they?
Yeah, been wonderful.
Yeah, I had someone came up to me last Sunday after we spoke together to finish it off last week, and she came up and she'd said to Lyndon in the first week, like, thank you, I've been waiting 17 years for you to speak on this. And then, yeah.
I'm not the fastest learner in the room, let's just put it that way.
But then she went on to say, she said, I actually sat there that first week feeling super confident and a little bit smug because I'm like, well, we tithe, we've always tithed. And she said, I went home and the next morning in my quiet time, I felt like God said to me, do you? Do you actually give your first 10% to your local church? And she said, I sat there and I went through all of our giving. And she said, well, yeah, we're incredibly generous. We give all over the place. But she said, we were not giving 10% to Maharangi Vineyard, which has been their church for over 20 years. And she said, so immediately I wanted to make that right. So I was like, that was super. And the other thing that we've seen since we've spoken on it in the last 5 weeks is our young people rising to begin that journey. And I think, man, what a gift if our young people can learn that from 15 or 14, or some of them are actually like 5, 6 with their pocket money. I'm like, that's incredible to pass that, for them to have that going forward into life. Like, what a win. Yeah.
So tell us about your families of origin. Tell us, what you learnt from your families about giving.
I learnt not to give. It's funny, but not funny. My family of origin around giving is painful. We both lost our dads in the last year, and my family of origin has had an incredibly strong, I knew it from a very little girl, hold of money and finances. And it's been deeply painful to grow up in a household like that. And it will be something I'll probably process the rest of my life. But we made the decision when we got married that was going to stop, because Lyndon could see the pain that when someone comes from another family of origin and sees what your family of origin is like, we made the decision together that this is going to end with us. And it has, and I'm so thankful that I can confidently say my children will never know what I knew growing up. And I had the privilege of caring for my dad as he died last year, and it was awful, but it was beautiful. And I was completely overcome when he died, that money to him was everything. It caused great pain in his own marriage. It caused great pain in our whole family. It had come from his parents, and I don't know, maybe generations before as well. But my dad died on a Monday night, and I had to dress him. And I went up. I was like, what do I put him in? And I went and found his dressing gown and his slippers. And it just felt like so appropriate, because that was his comfy clothes. And I put those on him. And as I said my goodbye, it was like, Dad, this is all you get to take to eternity, is these slippers and dressing gown. And you hung so tight onto money, and what a waste. Because, I shared it in the first service, but that hall there, that Wilson Hall that is attached to the church, that money was given by 2 sisters in 1950, who, when they died, one of them died at 80-something, the other one was 93. They left the money for that hall to be built. And that's who I want to be when I die. I want to invest in eternity. Like, Dad died with a lot of money in the bank, but it had gripped him his whole life. And it's heartbreaking. So, but it ends, it's ended.
And for me, so Angela said my dad died in February, but very, very suddenly. He had Alzheimer's, but died very, very suddenly. And so I went over for the funeral in February, and then came home really quickly, and then went back in May. The two of us went back to help my mother kind of pack up, and she wants to downsize. And so we were helping pack up, and clean out 50 years. They were over 50 years in the one house. And I noticed as we were going through stuff like you do, my dad, even though they I guess demonstrated it, my dad had I guess you could only say really kind of a scarcity mindset. We noticed everything he had, he put his initials on everything. Like he even had like a quad bike. You know those big quad bikes, like a farm bike? He wrote his initials on it. Like someone would take it and think it was theirs, but it was just, and it's a silly thing, but it was a thing that recognized, you know, that scarcity mentality that you've got to hold on tight to everything you have? That who knows who's waiting to take it from you? You've got, and I knew that my dad, and we're talking to my brother who obviously just lived down the road from them. He says, Dad held on tight to everything. I was like, why? Like, what does it mean? And so for us, it has been wonderful to be able to see that we can live a different way, that we can live not holding on tight, but holding open. That we can have open hands, open hearts. Seeing things like those Wilson sisters who are like now, that hall is the place of incredible mission, you know, that happens every night of the week that they would have never even imagined, you know, and yet that's their legacy. We're still talking about it today. You know, that their generosity has meant that people encounter Jesus every night of the week. And they had a massive part to play in it. It's very exciting.
And this is one of the things. You used to be a 2-hour a week in a community hall. You came to this new building, and tell us some of the incredible ministries that have started up, because it's now a 7-day-a-week operation. It's got huge. Tell us about some of the exciting ministries that are happening.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest miracles that we found, and it's actually probably the most impactful for me personally, is yes, we've been given a building that a few people think might be kind of cool. No one in this room, but anyone else. But what has been amazing is that week 1 of moving into the building, and my phone rang, and it was a guy, and he said, "Oh, you don't know me, but I hear that you're the new owners of the building, and I just wanted to introduce myself and really just hope that you would be into." And so he was the guy who ran the local NA, Narcotics Anonymous group. They have been meeting in that Wilson Hall for over 15 years. And he was kind of coming, kind of almost begging, like, would you let us keep using your building? And I was just like, would we let you keep using the building? We'll pay for it, he said. He said, well, no, you won't. But what can we do to serve you? So the blessing is, not only have we got our own building, we've never had more of a defined sense of mission and purpose as a church than we do now. And our mission and our purpose is to serve that NA group to the absolute nth degree. There we go. Come on. And what a privilege. Like, we're privileged to be able to serve these people as they journey through one of the hardest things that I think humanity has to go through, is coming clean of living a life to overcome addiction. And we as a church get to bless them and serve them. And so when we came over, when we moved in, we just said, how can we serve you? And one of the things was, well, most of the people turn up, about 20, 25 people a week, and they haven't really had a great meal. It's like, well, great. I love to cook. I actually love to cook.
This guy's an extraordinary chef.
And so I said, can we start cooking dinner before the NA meeting? And so, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, sure. So as a church, we get together, and every Tuesday night, we put on a great hot dinner for NA. In the 18 months we've been there, we are now the largest NA in all of Auckland. So last week, there we go. You guys are getting good at that.
That's tripled, more than tripled.
Can you come up to Maharangi Vineyard and just a few and start planting, like, oh yeah, we can get excited about this. But last week we had over 70 people for dinner. It's so incredible. And these people are incredible. Like And it isn't us serving them. Like as much as what we do for them, they do for us as a church. Like for us, it's been a hard season, but I have never felt so much life and purpose and joy as I have done on those Tuesday nights cooking for 70 people. It's been so fulfilling. But isn't that mission for us? We were made to be people of mission. And there is something that's fulfilled within us when we say yes to the call of God that satisfies like nothing else.
And
sorry, I'm getting too preachy.
This is good. And a lot of people are actually filtering into the life of the church as well and becoming Christians. Yeah. Tell us some of those stories.
Yeah, there's that's been beautiful to see. And I'm so proud of our church for being so welcoming, really. When we got the building, we're like, we want this to be a place where the doors are always open, and anyone, when they come, what they will feel is welcome and generosity. And so they do. Many of them come to church now. It was really funny. One of them actually came. He'd never come. We obviously knew him from NA, but we'd never seen him in church. And he came the very first week that Lyndon spoke about giving, and I was like, oh no. But on Tuesday night after that, he's like, I heard him come up to Lyndon. He said, I loved it on Sunday. That was really great. I said, you loved it and it was on Monday? He said, yeah, I really loved it. I got a lot out of that. So they're beautiful people.
Well, you guys have like the youth section over there. We have the ankle bracelet section that's sort of around that way, and which is so great. It's incredible.
Yeah, so they're addicts, and that's been something new for us to learn what that means. Yeah. But they are just beautiful people searching for hope, and they're finding it. And we get to, like, on the Tuesday nights, it's not an us and them, it's Lyndon cooks, but we sit and we eat with them and you chat with them, and they're very, very open. They are so honest. Like, I think we're so good at kind of putting on a front of who we are. They are not like that. Who they are is who they are, and they'll tell you all about it. And I love that. So we just recently got to celebrate on a Sunday morning. One of the guys was getting his ankle bracelet off that Friday. He'd had it on for a year, and he was so excited because his daughter lives up in Whangarei, and he hadn't been able to see her. So he was so looking forward to that, and his partner, she was celebrating a year clean. So,
on that Sunday.
On that Sunday. So we got them up, and they just cried, and the church just stood and absolutely applauded them, because that is a really, really hard thing to do, is to stay clean for a year. Yeah. We had a lady just a couple of weeks ago come, and she had been clean for 16 and a half years, and then she used again. Relapse. And she's like, I just need to come here. I just need to be here, and I need to keep being here. So it's really beautiful and very privileged for us.
I had the joy of being up there a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to interview some of those people, which we're going to show some of the interviews on a later Sunday. Some of the people said to me they'd never ever been into a church before, and I said, what are you expecting? And they said, well, we're expecting to be judged, that people would think that we're sort of just riffraff, that we don't belong. One person said that she was scared of coming in with tattoos, that she would be judged. And I said, what did you find instead? And they said, home. We found family. So tell us a bit about that, because everybody has just been embraced, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we've found is that Sunday that we celebrated the 1 year and the ankle, like the ankle bracelet coming off after a year was someone who was actually sentenced to over 5 years, could have easily done 5 years in prison, and someone who was well and truly, the year was actually just an incredible testament to his fortitude, his steadfastness of doing what needed to be done. I must say, before any of this journey, I was like, oh, ankle brace, what a waste. They should be in prison, why would you do that? But it's like to see firsthand how restricted your life is, how painful it is. And then for him to have done that a year and met everything that was required of him, to go above and beyond to the point of corrections being like, man, we are so blown away by the effort and the steadfastness, how seriously you've taken not only your offending, but the putting right of this season that you're in. That it's just like, man, as a church, if we could grasp the steadfastness, the discipline of those people, man, we'd be unstoppable. Do you know?
And last week at NA, one of them was telling me she was super excited because she'd had her ankle bracelet taken off, and I didn't even know this happened, but one of the older ladies in church knew that was happening, and so she took her out for dinner and to the movies to celebrate.
Yeah.
And the others heard, which was a bit of and they're like, did you do that for her? What about me? And so, it's, they watch us. I know we're being watched, and I'm so proud of our church for their response. We cook, the meals is huge actually. It's a lot to cook for 70 people every Tuesday night, but I put the call out a few weeks ago and said, hey, we need help. And I had over 20 people come and say, I'd love to join the team to cook. So we did it on Monday and it was amazing. We made a whole lot of lasagnas and a whole lot of, what else did we do? Deviled sausages, but they are so grateful. Yeah. Like we have met with nothing but, oh man, thank you. You think we were cooking like gourmet or something, and it's not. But yeah, it's just been amazing.
So just summing up the last 18 months, what has God taught you guys about leadership? What have you guys learnt in the process of the last couple of years?
It's hard. No. I think what.
Oh, no,
yes. Now, I think what it is to be courageous. Like those guys, like those people, like they've modeled to us the courageousness required to follow Jesus. To keep putting one foot in front of the other, to keep saying yes, to turn up over and over and over again, and that's the beautiful thing about a recovery community is it's forever. Like, and I loved, I guess as a leader, being able to see is like, man, this is a call that I've been called to, and I have to have the same steadfastness that they demonstrate to me of turning up, of saying yes, of following when it feels easy, when it feels hard, when I want to do it, when everything in me wants to turn around and run away. Like the lady that we celebrated her 1 year sober was like, I said, this is a wonderful day of celebrating, but I said to her from the front, or she said, share with us, is like, man, most days I wake up and I think about using again. That's the journey. It's not all great and fun and woohoo, but it's those daily decisions not to. And so as a leader, I guess I've learned is just to say yes to Jesus over and over. We did a global leadership day just last week, and the guy talking about it was used the basketball analogy of, and I could barely put my glasses on, have the hand-eye coordination to put my glasses on, let alone play a sport. But I got what he was talking about. It's like when you're a professional basketball player, it's like you just do the basics over and over and over again. You never stop doing the basics. I guess what I've learned is the basics of leadership is the basics of following Jesus, spending time with him, getting in his presence, saying yes to him over and over and over again.
I think I would say I've probably been more aware over the last year and a bit of that we have an enemy who loves to discourage us and take us down. And as wonderful as all of this has been, it's probably been our hardest year ever. And I know that's because of life and losing parents. But we've been deeply discouraged as we have also led people through such a big change. And it's only been in the last month that we have been able to see the wood for the trees, really. That God is actually doing something beautiful. Of course, the enemy is going to want to knock us down. So that has been a journey that we have needed people to buoy us up and say, don't give up, because it's everything in you wants to go, this is too hard. And we're now seeing, if we were to have given up in the midst of that season, that would have had a huge ripple effect. So I'm eternally grateful for very special people who have not let that happen.